Coming up tonight, Gamecock football gets a new ranking.
Later, Gamecock basketball gears up for the new season.
And finally, the up and down week the Carolina Panthers just had tonight.
These stories and more on Palmetto State Sports.
From the Blue Ridge Mountains and through the Midlands down to the coast, there's plenty of sports highlights and moments here in South Carolina. There's only one place where you'll catch all the action. This is Palmetto State Sports.
Welcome into Palmetto State Sports. I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm Colleen Sholtis. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, Gamecock fans will be happy to hear this. After the Gamecocks pulled out a win over the Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday, they are now ranked number 25 in the AP polls.
Williams-Brice Stadium was in full effect with the team playing in front of their fourth sold-out crowd of the season.
Head coach Shane Beamer said, quote, "Saturday night's crowd at Williams-Brice Stadium created one of the greatest atmospheres he's been a part of in his coaching career," end quote.
This is the first time the Gamecocks have beaten the Aggies in the entirety of the two meeting, and the first time the Gamecocks have been ranked since 2018.
The Gamecocks are now riding on a 4-game winning streak thanks to their win, and they are projected to win their next 2 games against Missouri and Vanderbilt.
Clemson kept their perfect season intact on Saturday, scoring 20 unanswered points to take the lead in the fourth quarter. The Tigers trailed until that point, mostly due to their 4 turnovers on the game.
Despite that, they were unstoppable on the ground as the team rushed for 293 total yards, with Will Shipley running for a career-high 172 yards and 2 scores. However, it was the Clemson defense that sealed the game for the Tigers.
The Tigers allowed 0 points in the second half, and an interception by R.J. Mickens stopped a potential game-winning drive by Syracuse. The team will have the week off before returning to action in South Bend as they will take on Notre Dame on November 5th.
The 14th-ranked Gamecock women's soccer team goes into its last matchup of the regular season against Missouri tomorrow night right here at Stone Stadium. They are looking to have a strong finish to what has been another successful season.
Last week, they demolished 18th-ranked Tennessee 6-1 in Knoxville, and the Gamecocks are heating up at the perfect time as postseason play is just around the corner.
The SEC tournament will begin this Sunday and last all week. The Gamecocks last won the tournament in 2019, but they will look to bring home the championship before the NCAA tournament begins later in November.
Basketball season is just around the corner, and the Gamecocks are gearing up for the season. Unlike the previous years, the men and the women's team will have separate events rather than their joint event madness on Main Street.
The men host their Garnet and Black Scrimmage Madness fan event on tonight, tipping off just a little while ago at 7 p.m. The free event gives fans a chance to meet new head coach Lamont Paris and get a glimpse at the new team, as well as some of the potential standout players such as freshman Gigi Jackson. For the women, they will be hosting Fam Fest on October 31st at 7 p.m., giving fans, or as they call them, FAMs, a chance to meet the 2022-2023 women's basketball squad. And I know I'm really excited to see this team. I know we returned a lot of talent, but I think they're still going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. Absolutely, and hopefully we'll get that natty again. Coming up, SGTV News 4 sports reporter Connor Fisher will give us a glimpse at the sports world outside the Palmetto State.
Welcome back, Gamecock fans. Sports doesn't just happen here in the Palmetto State. Here's what's going on around the country. On Thursday of last week, the Carolina Panthers traded former Pro Bowl running back Christian McCaffrey to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for 4 future draft picks. CMC was selected in the first round of the 2017 draft by Carolina and ran for almost 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns on the ground, and also had almost 3,000 yards and 18 touchdowns through the air while with the Panthers. In 2019, he became the first player since Hall of Famer Roger Craig to have over 1,000 rush yards and 1,000 receiving yards in a single season, earning a Pro Bowl nod and was voted to the first-team All-Pro. However, even without McCaffrey on the West Coast, the Panthers had a convincing win over the weekend against divisional rival Tampa Bay and future Hall of Famer Tom Brady with a final score of 21-3. It was former XFL quarterback P.J. Walker under center for Carolina against the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield out. Walker threw for 177 yards and 2 touchdowns without an interception in the victory, while running back Donta Foreman led the team with 118 rushing yards. This week, the Panthers go on the road to take on the 3-4 Atlanta Falcons. Something to note, both of Carolina's victories so far this season have been against divisional rivals within the NFC South. On to the hard court. The Charlotte Hornets have 2 wins and 1 loss, good for the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, over the first full week of regular season NBA action. Their last game was this past Sunday, a 126-109 victory over the Atlanta Hawks. The Hornets shot 52% from the field and out-rebounded the Hawks 52-45 in an easy victory. With all-star point guard LaMelo Ball still out with an ankle injury, it's been vets Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward leading the charge. Rozier leads the Hornets with 23.5 points per game, while Hayward is second with 19.3. Tonight, the Hornets take on the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. Tip-off should be happening in just a few minutes. Finally tonight, the World Series is here as the MLB races towards an exciting conclusion. On one side is the top-seeded Houston Astros, who blew past Cleveland and then swept the Yankees in the ALCS. This will be the fourth time Houston has played in the Fall Classic since 2017. And on the other side are the underdog Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies were the 6th seed in the National League and defeated the Cardinals, Braves, and Padres en route to the franchise's first World Series appearance since 2009. Game 1 of the World Series is this Friday, October 28th in Houston. First pitch is at 8:03 p.m. That's the Pro Sports Rundown for this week. Coming up after the break, USC is nationally ranked after the big win over the Aggies. What one South Carolina had to say about his big plays coming up after the break. I'm Connor Fisher, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Tyler Perrone. As we discussed earlier, Gamecock football is on the rise, and one star stood out this past game day. Senior wide receiver Xavier Legette. Legette had an outstanding 100-yard return after kickoff, a feat that hasn't been completed since 2018 by Carolina's own Deebo Samuel. Check this out.
Boyd is rocking, puts his foot into it. Legette waits for it, a yard deep, gonna bring it out. Far hash mark at the 10, 15, gets a block, 20, up the far sideline. Legette out to the 25, still on his feet, at the 50, 40, nobody within 10 yards, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Carolina, touchdown Xavier Legette.
When asked about when he knew he was gone, Legette says, quote, "From the start, I knew I was going to get one," end quote. Legette started the high energy in Williams-Brice very early in the game, and the stadium stayed rocking the whole night. So much so that the South Carolina Emergency Management Division reported that the shaking in the Columbia area was due to the exciting game and not an earthquake. Connor, I'll tell you what, I was at Williams-Brice during that opening kickoff, and it was like the bleachers were rattling under me.
Yeah, you're a lucky one. I wasn't at the game, but I got to see it from downtown, and the energy was just as great there as it was at Willie B.
A regional champion has made its way to Columbia, South Carolina. Men's tennis sophomore Casey Houle competed for the ITA Carolina Regional Championship title yesterday, and in classic USC fashion, took a victory. The sophomore is originally from Brisbane, Australia, and becomes the third Gamecock to earn a title in program history. With a 13-2 record, Houle leads the Gamecocks and will compete in Fall Nationals in San Diego, California, November 3rd through 6th. Wow. Carolina athletics are just on and up and up. We're going into homecoming week strong on football, and we have an ITA regional champion going into nationals. It's fantastic.
You're absolutely right. Things are definitely looking up for the Gamecocks.
Coming up after the break, what Carolina sporting events are going on this week? Stay tuned for the Palmetto State calendar.
Before we go, let's take a look at the Palmetto State calendar. Starting off with some women's soccer, the Gamecocks will host the final game of their regular season against Missouri at 7 tomorrow night. They will participate in the SEC tournament that begins Sunday and lasts all week in Pensacola, Florida. The Tiger women's soccer team will travel to take on Pittsburgh tomorrow night to play the Panthers at 7 p.m. The Chanticleers women's soccer team will stay in Conway as they host ULM also tomorrow night at 7. They will be participating in the Sun Belt Conference tournament that starts Monday in Foley, Alabama.
Moving on to the men's soccer matchups for the week, the Gamecocks will head to Georgia State this Friday at 7 p.m., and that game will be broadcasted on ESPN+. They'll return home to face Kentucky on Tuesday, November 1st at 7 p.m. Clemson's men's soccer team will host NC State this Friday at 7, and finally, Coastal Carolina will travel to Harrisonburg to face James Madison at 7, and then they'll head home to take on Georgia Southern on Tuesday, November 1st, also at 7 p.m.
Now let's check out the volleyball games for this upcoming week. The Gamecocks will face the Texas A&M Aggies at home on Friday at 7 p.m. The Tigers will travel to Raleigh this Friday to play NC State at 7, and then they'll head to Chapel Hill to take on North Carolina on Sunday at 1 p.m. The Chanticleers will host Marshall for a 2-game series starting with the first game this Friday at 6, and then again the following day at 1 p.m.
Lastly, we'll take a look at the football matchups for this week. The Gamecocks will take on Missouri at home at 4 p.m. on the SEC Network. Clemson Tigers have a bye week this week, and the Chanticleers are on the road heading to Huntington, West Virginia to take on Marshall this Saturday at 7. That's all we have for tonight's edition of Palmetto State Sports.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SGTV Sports, and to keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us at sgtvonline.com. For SGTV News 4 Sports, I'm Colleen Sholtis.
And I'm Spencer Ball. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great night, Carolina.
Forever to thee.